You're watching live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. There, right here, you're watching live as Governor Henry McMaster and members of South Carolina Law Enforcement Division are speaking right now live to discuss the state's efforts to oppose dogfighting. Let's take a listen in.
Organized criminal activity that oftentimes is related to other violent crimes and leads to other violent crimes as well. SLED agents who work dogfighting cases routinely find guns and drugs and money, and in this case, having guns and drugs unsecured where a child could have access to them. On Wednesday, April the 2nd, SLED agents served 10 search warrants in Dillon and Marion counties. SLED agents working with local law enforcement, the Attorney General's office, and multiple other partners searched 10 locations over those 2 days. And I'm proud to have Sheriff Wallace from Marion and Sheriff Hamilton from Dillon with us here today. During the searches, law enforcement found roughly 17 pounds of marijuana, 1 kilo of cocaine, 11 grams of crack cocaine, 2 grams of ketamine, 2,266 ecstasy or MDA pills, and 990 fentanyl pills. Agents also seized 55 weapons. And altogether, SLED and our partners seized and rescued 160 dogs. During the searches, SLED arrested 11 people who faced charges of criminal conspiracy and ill treatment of animals, as well as several offenses related to drugs and guns found at the scene. Thanks to the support of Governor Henry McMaster and the General Assembly, SLED launched this dogfighting unit in 2023. Since its inception, agents have worked with other state agencies, numerous local and federal partners to rescue roughly 500 dogs, arrest 116 people, and serve over 470 charges for their crimes. SLED agents also partner with experts and teams from organizations like ASPCA. They help evaluate the animals, get them the care they need, and hopefully find them a loving home. And we couldn't do this work without them. SLED is fortunate to partner with local law enforcement, departments, sheriff's office, and our federal agencies and task force, and some of them you see represented here today. Let me be clear. If you're involved in dogfighting in South Carolina, we will find you, and we will arrest you, and you will be held accountable. Again, I'm grateful to the governor and his commitment for making sure that our agents have all the resources that we need, and I also want to thank the General Assembly for their continued support as well. I also want to thank especially the SLED agents and employees that worked on these cases. They do this work because they're passionate about it and because they help make a difference. And I want them to know how appreciated they are. Finally, tips often play a key role in these cases. If you see something that you believe is related to dogfighting, I urge you to contact Crime Stoppers or the SLED tip line at 866-472-8477. I'm going to repeat that number. SLED tip line 866-472-8477 or email tips.sled.sc.gov. You can email tips.sled.sc.gov. At this time, I'd like to introduce you a veterinarian who's been a tremendous help to our unit and to law enforcement across the state, Dr. Jennifer Bonovich. And at the close of this, after the governor speaks, we'll take some questions. Dr. Bonovich.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Bonovich, and I am a forensic veterinarian and a shelter veterinarian here in South Carolina. What is a forensic veterinarian? My role as a forensic veterinarian is to apply the science of veterinary medicine to the criminal justice system. I collect evidence, analyze it, I go on scene, I examine animal victims, write forensic reports, and testify in court. I work directly with law enforcement on scene to directly witness and assess the conditions of animals where they are found and provide emergency care if needed. I examine and document the conditions of the animal in its living condition and any associated evidence. I speak for the animals who cannot speak for themselves. They cannot testify, but I can in order to interpret the evidence of their pain and suffering. Dogfighting is not just an animal issue, as was mentioned. It is a serious community issue. It is violent, it is barbaric, it is secretive, and it is local, and it is in communities all over South Carolina. These dogs suffer immensely. As a veterinarian, I've seen this time and time again, and it's not just the fight. It's the entire life of this animal. From living its entire life on a heavy chain, from the time it's a puppy, about 8 weeks old, put on a chain so heavy, you would be mortified. Chained around many other dogs just long enough to see and torment each other day and night, sometimes within inches of each other, but far enough to never have the ability to interact with each other, to play with each other. The entire life is usually a small circle of dirt created by the typically excessively heavy chain that they're on. That's their life. A circle of dirt, a heavy chain, and perhaps a plastic barrel to live in. And this is in your community. The fights are violent, vicious, and can last minutes, and they can last hours. Blood loss, punctures, teeth are torn out, bones are crushed and fractured. All of this while members of your community are watching. They're cheering. They've got a lot of money in betting on who's going to win. They accept and praise the violence of this blood sport as these dogs violently fight. These are people from our communities. People even bring children to these fights. And what message is this sending to the youth in South Carolina? The frightened dog who just lost that fight may have been the one chained up in your neighbor's yard where they had a dozen other dogs, but suddenly goes missing and doesn't come back. And that might have been the loser. Maybe that dog was the winner and he comes back with a crushed front leg and oozing wounds put right back on the chain in his dirt circle. Dogfighting perpetuates and normalizes violence, drugs, criminal activity within our own community, and it perpetuates animal neglect. It perpetuates this through generations of families. Fathers bring their sons, grandfathers bring their grandsons, and it perpetuates this through our communities. We all have a role in ending this. As a veterinarian, I am here to uphold my veterinary oath to protect animal welfare and health. And as a forensic veterinarian, I'm here to be their voice in the legal system. These animals deserve better. There are fates worse than death, and that's living this life. Our communities deserve better. Speak up and report it, because silence enables cruelty and violence in your community. I do not want this in my community, and you should not want it in yours. So if you do not report it, then you support it. Please report it. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and pass over to the Chief Executive Officer of the ASPCA, Mr. Matt Burshadker.
Thank you, Dr. B. Thank you, Governor McMaster, Chief Keel, for your deep commitment to this important work. Thank you to the SLED officers, investigators, and the dedicated professionals who responded to this case. Coordinating the investigation and the seizure of 160 dogs across 10 properties is an enormous task. It required precision, urgency, and teamwork. And what we witnessed on the ground was extraordinary. Their professionalism, compassion, and commitment to these animals was unwavering. When our ASPCA teams arrived on scene, they found dogs who were severely underweight, some without access to food and water. Many had medical issues and scarring that is consistent with dogfighting. We also uncovered extensive dogfighting equipment, fighting pits, treadmills, rape stands, further supporting suspicions that these dogs were bred and trained to fight. But as the doctor said, it's not just the fights that are so cruel, it's the life in between. Dogs used in fighting live lives defined by suffering. They are chained exposed to the elements, scorching heat, freezing cold, driving rain. There is no comfort, no safety, no kindness. If they win, they fight again. And if they lose, they're likely killed. That is the entire arc of their life. These dogs are victims of the worst kind of human betrayal. Their loyalty is twisted into violence for entertainment, for profit. And they're not just physically harmed, they're emotionally and psychologically manipulated every step of the way. I am now proud to say the ASPCA is working closely with SLED and the South Carolina Attorney General's Office to gather and analyze the evidence needed to support an effective prosecution. Each dog will receive a forensic exam, medical and behavioral evaluations, enrichment, and expert care, because every single one of them deserves a chance to heal, a chance at life beyond cruelty. But rescuing them is just the beginning. Providing long-term care for these dogs requires extensive resources that many animal welfare organizations simply don't have. And that's why I want to thank the governor and the South Carolina legislature for passing H. 3682 last year, establishing a process to recover the cost of caring for seized animals. This law is critically important for law enforcement to pursue animal cruelty investigations, and it helps ensure that the animals get the treatment that they need and deserve. And that's where the ASPCA can step in again, with the expertise and the ability to rehabilitate thousands of traumatized and abused animals. Over the past year, the ASPCA has assisted SLED in the execution of over 15 dogfighting-related search warrants. This growing partnership has built trust and has allowed us to respond quickly to animals in need. While we often talk about the individual cases, it's vital to understand the bigger picture. Since 2010, the ASPCA has assisted in more than 300 dogfighting cases, helping nearly 6,000 canine victims. And even though dogfighting is a felony in all 50 states, it persists. It's not confined to one region or one community. We've seen it in rural fields, suburban backyards, and urban basements. And as you heard, it often goes hand in hand with other crimes: illegal gambling, drug trafficking, firearms offenses. Dogfighting isn't just an animal welfare issue. It's a public safety issue, a criminal justice issue, a moral issue. But we are not powerless. With strong and effective partnerships like this one, we could move closer to a future where dogfighting is not only widely prosecuted, but eradicated entirely. Tomorrow is National Dogfighting Awareness Day, and we urge the public to learn the signs of dogfighting and to join us in our fight to end it. Let this case serve as a clear message. This cruelty will not be ignored. We will keep working case by case, dog by dog, until this brutal practice is ended. Thank you very much for your time. I now have the distinct honor of welcoming Governor McMaster to the podium, a true champion for animals.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all being here, sheriffs, chief, and our visitors. We know we'll see you again. This is an unspeakable thing that's happening in our state. But I'm going to speak about it a little bit because I learned about it when I was Attorney General. You may remember a man named David Tant, whom we caught. He was a big dog fighter. He had 47 dogs at his camp where they were trained in the manner that's been mentioned. Have you ever seen such things as that? Look at this. This would be put around a dog's neck. It can expand as he or she gets bigger. Why would somebody put this around a dog's neck? So as they grow, they've got to carry this around, and that gets them stronger and stronger and stronger. Pit bulls are the favorite because they're strong animals. And unless they are taught to be mean, they'll be just like every other dog. But these men, typically men, who breed these animals and put this kind of collar on them or have them drag a chain like this. You get a chance. had this attached to the collar around his neck that he carried around so wide until it was put on the stick. Another dog had been brought up the same way. And as has been mentioned, usually only one will leave that pit. What's a pit? It's not a hole in the ground. It's got to be movable. Because these people who do this move from place to place. They don't put up a sign saying, big dog fight tonight. That's not the way it works. Somebody will put the word out. The word gets around informally. And you might go to the XYZ convenience store. And you go to that one and they say, you go to this other place and they will tell you another. And finally you go to several places until somebody tells you where the fight's going to be that night, typically. It's not advertised. So what do you see when you go there? You see these dogs that have been raised, as has been described, and treated like that and made into mean animals, strong and ready to fight. And when they get into that pit, usually one only gets out. Sometimes they both get out. But they are trained in that to fight in that pit. Now the pit is typically a rug that's put on the ground, a carpet, and you have 4x8 plywood that's cut in half, so it's 4x8, and that is maybe cut it down to make it a little lower, but that's the ring in which these dogs are placed. And they hold them at each side, and then they turn them loose, and boy, they go at it. And this is not like a dog fight. You saw a dog walking down the street with his owner, and another dog came out and yipped, and they started growling. It's not that. It ain't that. It is nothing like that. It is vicious. These pit bulls, they're trained to bite, to rip, cut, and they will grab hold. If the top dog gets the other one down, it'll make you cry. I've seen the videos. It'll make you cry. It'll make you mad. We had a case in 2004 when I was Attorney General, a man named David Tant, as I mentioned. 47 dogs we took from his place. They took them to Charleston and kept them in a shelter there. It's very expensive. I think it's about $100,000 because you can't just put them up for adoption because they've got to get over what they've been through before they're ready to be adopted. But once they get over what they've been through, if they do, they make wonderful pets just like other animals. But that takes some time. But you'll have men, typically men, sometimes children, sometimes women, they will come from all around to see this dog fight. These dogs, and they might have 2, 3, 4, 5, might have 15 fights. And there's blood all over the plywood. There's blood and parts of animals all over that carpet. And sometimes, in the practice that they have at these camps, they'll need to let the pit bull that they're making vicious have some practice. So if you know someone whose dog all of a sudden was in the backyard one day and disappeared, nobody knows where he is, that dog may be a bait dog, B-A-I-T, bait dog. What do they do with a bait dog? Your dog might be a collie, might be a cocker spaniel, might be a lab, might be anything. They'll take that dog and duct tape his mouth shut so he cannot fight and put him in the pit with this animal and let the trained pit bull that's made to fight kill that dog. Now, who would do such a thing? These people who just got, of course, they're innocent until proven guilty, but dog fighters, that's who does this. And this man, David Tant, was advertised as the second largest breeder of dog fighters. Oh, no, they didn't call him dog fighters. Second largest breeder of trained dogs. I don't remember what euphemism they used in the United States. And they have magazines that are circulated among these people. And they will say that Big Red overcame Little Joe in 1 minute and 26 seconds. That means he dispatched him, killed him in 1 minute and 26 seconds. They have their own language, and they circulate that around. It is unbelievable. And not only do the dogs fight, sometimes the dogs will be fighting and get locked up on each other, and the side bets will start going on, not on who will win or lose, but if they can make the top dog quit fighting. So in one instance, they started clipping off about a ½ inch of his tail at a time to see if he'd quit. Well, he didn't quit. They got it up to just a nub. He wouldn't quit. So they started cutting his feet and his legs until he would quit. Well, he never did quit because he died before he quit. He bled out right there. It's hard to believe, but it is happening. Well, we sent David Tent. We tried him in Greenwood. He threw himself down the stairs and said he hurt his neck and was trying to get out of the trial. But Judge Wyatt Saunders brought him on into trial. And he had several lawyers. One would come in preparing the case weeks before the trial, and he'd quit, and another one would come in. I think we're just guessing. Some of those lawyers, once they realized how horrible this was, they did not want to be associated with the case. But a lawyer has to defend. Everyone's entitled to a defense. So he had a lawyer, defended the case. And Jennifer Evans in the Attorney General's office was our lead attorney in that case in Greenwood in 2004. And she convinced Judge Wyatt Saunders that it's admissible evidence to let the jury see some videotapes of dog fights, as I've described. Not these necessarily for these dogs, but for dog fights, typical. Well, as I remember, the deputy clerk of court, once the lights were down and the videos began playing.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Right there is a live news conference happening in Columbia. That is Governor Henry McMaster, and SLED is right behind him, and other state leaders talking about the state's efforts to combat dogfighting.